There was a shooting today just outside of the nation's capital where a congressman, multiple staffers, and police officers were shot. The gunman, whose name I'm not going to give any attention to, was some old white guy from Illinois who's pissed off at the government and managed to fire off 50 shots from a rifle before being shot dead on the scene. House Republican Whip Steve Scalise was shot in the hip and whisked away to the hospital for surgery where he's in stable condition. Two of the other people shot are in critical condition. And unlike previous tragedies where multiple people were injured by right-wing nut jobs, Trump was quick to reply on Twitter saying this, quote, "Representative Steve Scalise of Louisiana, a true friend and patriot, was badly injured but will fully recover. Our thoughts and prayers are with him." Where was a response like that when 3 people got knifed by a Trump-loving white nationalist in Portland a few weeks back? Where is Trump's response to black churches being burned to the ground in his name? Where is he when right-wing white nationalists who are terrorists are killing our fellow Americans? He's silent because Trump supports violence against fellow Americans who happen to disagree with what he's saying. He's the one promoting violence from the bully pulpit of the presidency. Trump picks and chooses which victims of violence he wants to address, and he's noticeably silent when those promoters of violence are supporters of his. But on the other hand, here's how a real political leader responds to a tragedy like this.
Violence of any kind is unacceptable in our society, and I condemn this action in the strongest possible terms. Real change can only come about through nonviolent action, and anything else runs counter to our most deeply held American values.
If only we had a person sitting in the White House who would say something like that when somebody who supports them commits violence against our fellow Americans. But we don't have that. We got a guy who suggested that his supporters might use their guns to prevent his political opponent running for president from nominating a Supreme Court justice. Remember this?
If she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But
you see, Republicans love the Second Amendment and guns because conservatives believe that violence is a perfectly acceptable way to solve political disputes. So I have a personal message for Trump and the Republicans in Congress. It's your own fucking fault. Actions have consequences. Words have consequences. The Republicans are the ones who've been calling for Second Amendment remedies for years now. And the reason they're all about gun rights is to defend against a tyrannical government through the use of force. So while he's not busy dodging bullets in the outfield, here's what Republican U.S. Senator Rand Paul had to say about that on Twitter. At Judge Knapp, why do we have a Second Amendment? It's not to shoot deer, it's to shoot at the government when it becomes tyrannical. Well, that's what this looks like, you asshole. The government conservatives are arming themselves against is congressmen and congresswomen, police officers like the Capitol Police officer who's in critical condition, and people who work for our American government like the staffer that's in the hospital. So when you talk about fighting back against the government with guns, this is what they're talking about. Shooting people in the government, like Representative Steve Scalise. That's the Second Amendment remedy they've been talking about for years. They just expect to be themselves the ones who would end up in the crosshairs. The Republicans only expected Democrats, like Representative Gabby Gifford, remember her? To get shot by the nut jobs they've spent the better part of a century arming to the teeth. So here's my message to the Republican Party. You put our police in harm's way. You created this tragedy. 2 men are in critical condition because of you. You built this tragedy by making sure that even terrorists and crazy bastards and wife beaters can get their hands on guns. You ran a guy for president who normalizes violence, who promotes violence as a way to settle political disputes. And since Republicans always hate political correctness and love it when people tell it like it is, here's some scathing reactions from Twitter. At Glinter said, "Thoughts and prayers to the NRA's pet politicians who are going to be offering their thoughts and prayers over the next few hours." And at CJ Whirlman said, "Opposing sensible gun control laws on behalf of the NRA is all fun and games until you're shot in the face." And at Big Mean Internet said, "If the shooter has a serious health condition, then is taking pot shots at the GOP House leadership considered self-defense?" Well, that would be one way of looking at stand your ground laws. But seriously, what did you think was going to happen when you steal health care away from a few million Americans? People are going to get pissed. When you kick kids with cancer off their health care, then crazy bastards are going to start showing up to baseball games with guns. And I guess it's a good thing bullet holes aren't considered pre-existing conditions, because Republicans in Congress just voted to kill people with those last week. So while Democrats have been working to make sure that lack of health care isn't a death sentence in this country and working to put some basic sensible rules and regulations around gun ownership here in America, they have been obstructed by Republicans in Congress and the legions of the National Rifle Association every step of the way. Even when the congressman who got shot has pushed laws that make it not easier, not harder, for crazy people to get their hands on guns. Here's what Scalise tweeted. Quote, proud to introduce a bill with Representative Alex Maloney to remove burdens on law-abiding gun owners. Hashtag Second Amendment, hashtag 2A. Well, I hope you're proud of yourself now, because while you may get an A+ from the NRA for your voting record, you get an F for dodging bullets. And thank God nobody but the gunman has died as of right now, because it could have been a lot worse. And the gun-toting, violence-promoting Republicans running this country would have had a few more gallons of American blood on their hands. Pass some laws, assholes. The life you save may be your own. I'm Ryan Clayton. This is Content News. Come back daily for the news where we're free to share the truth.